Watch Who?
Hello.
And welcome to To Watch Who, a Doctor Who podcast. I'm Mark.
I'm Sarah.
And I'm a Doctor Who fan.
And I'm new to watching Who.
Yep, watching for the very first time.
Very first time.
And my tone was going up and up then.
I brought us right back down.
Yeah. Well, it's beginning of a new season. Yay! So we should be upbeat.
Do you know what? I always know whenever I'm on BritBox and I'm having to scroll through the seasons, because there's no easy way to do it on BritBox. So you're scrolling through some 1, 2, 3. I think, God, so far in to go. And it's just getting further. There's more and more.
Well, you join us, listener. It's a very hot, sunny day. We're here in this lovely Italian village.
It is a hot, sunny day. That's true. We're just recording at that hot weekend period, yeah.
Would you be like that if it was an orange grove in Italy? Would you still be feeling the heat?
Probably, but I could jump into a pool.
Yeah, I suppose so.
That's in my head. There's a pool just there. So, do you know what I was thinking about today? Right. So I don't know if you had this when you were little, but when I was little and it was hot, my dad would get the paddling pool out, and it was like the happiest thing. Like I just remember the joy at getting the paddling pool out, and it'd be like it wasn't just it wasn't a discussed thing. Just like one day I'd wake up, because that's what it's summer holidays. Summer holidays feel like they go on forever when you're little as well. And it was being put out. And I'd just be like, ah! And like the joy. And then like, because you've got the pool, everyone comes to your house because you've got the paddling pool out. And with a hose, my dad would fill it up and then he'd check it. And then I was thinking about like that first day, it's like the joy. And everyone comes into your paddling pool. But then the second day, so it's sat overnight, and then the second day, it's got like the flies on it. My dad would be like, all right, but I'd still get in it because I'm like, I want to get back in that paddling pool. And I think you'd have it for like 2-3 days, and then you're like, it's end of paddling pool life because the water's got gross. And then it'd be sad. And generally, my dad would be like, no, we need to clean it out now. And like someone else would then go and I don't know whether they all discussed it or what, but then like we go to someone else's paddling pool. But it was just like the happiest thing ever was having, and I would murder for a paddling pool right now.
What kind of paddling pool did you have? Was it like inflatable?
With one that wasn't inflatable, but it was a flat one on the bottom, and then it went up at the sides. It was quite tall but big and round, and so by the time you filled it, the water sort of filled the sides and made it stable, if that makes sense. And then when I was younger, we had an inflatable one.
Because I'm just trying to remember now. You've sort of triggered my memory. I had it was plastic, like it didn't fold out, it didn't blow up or anything. It was like a vacuum-formed piece of plastic that was just, because it also doubled as a sandpit when it wasn't full of water. But it had a plug. It was just a big bit of plastic. You couldn't fold it up. You couldn't do anything. It was just a huge square of plastic.
Mine were always circle.
Well, I will check with Giuliano to see what paddling pools he's got in. I'm sure he's the Duke now. I'm sure he's got a few.
Oh my gosh, him and those legs.
Well, today's story then is... Well, I'm not going to say the title. So last time, everybody, we had a bit of a debate about how to say the title.
It's definitely The Masque, right? Because they say it.
Well, okay. We asked our listeners to let us know. So I'm not going to say it the whole time. Our listeners are always going to say this title for us.
That's how I want it. But I will say, they never say the name of the place. I if it did, I completely missed it. But when they were talking about holding the event, he said, but what about The Masque? And he went, The Masque. So it's definitely The Masque. I got that and I was like, okay, that's what they've said.
I'm now going to play what our listeners think. And I've done a bit of a tally to see what the results find.
The Masque of Mandragora.
The Masque of Mandragora.
The Masque of Mandragora.
Masque of Mandragora.
The Masque of Mandragora.
The Masque of Mandragora.
The Masque of Mandragora.
Masque of Mandragora.
The Masque of Mandragora.
Masque of Mandragora.
The Masque of Mandragora.
The Masque of Mandragora.
Mandragora.
Masque of Mandragora.
The Masque of Mandragora.
Well, there we go. So thank you very much to Tess, Keith, Harry, Rob, Si, Joe, Lee, David, Andrew, Dave, Hieronymus, Joshua, James, and Lucas for their pronunciations.
Pronunciations. Are we like arguing?
Anyway, so I've done a tally of what everybody said. Was it mask or mask? And the results are 7 for mask, 7 for mask.
No fucking way. Oh my gosh. Well, there we go. All I'll say is, I mean, just to add in, they said mask. They said the mask. They said the mask. Of course.
Okay, every time we say
Masque
or
Mandragora,
I'm just going to edit in one of our listeners.
Oh, yeah, I'm not saying it.
saying either.
You definitely said, what about the mask? And he went, the mask. Because I remember thinking it didn't sound French. So it really stuck out in my head.
But it's Italian, isn't it? They're in Italy, aren't they?
But it didn't sound...
I was going to say it's like that dress that's either gold or blue or whatever. But
No, it's more like, you know how I had to keep saying quarks for you because you couldn't say it. So we won't say the name. We will just use one of our listeners' voices.
The Masque of Mandragora.
The opener of season 14. I don't know I have no idea what you think at all. Well, let's go into it. It's a funny intro, actually, because it's just the Doctor and Sarah in the TARDIS wandering around.
Can I just tell you what I think?
Okay, go for it.
I really wanted to like it. And there were some things I really liked, and there were some things I couldn't like.
Well, I think you just summed up every Doctor Who story that you've watched.
But, I know. But I really wanted to. Oh, I've just spotted my cat behind us. Sorry, it made me jump. I really wanted to. There was a lot of elements of it that was like I loved that they talked about Leonardo da Vinci. I kept wanting to see Leonardo da Vinci. We never saw it. I didn't fully understand what the Doctor was trying to do. You know, they sort of cast Sarah off. I never really fully understood that. And there's a lot that just got explained away because he's like, well, we're in the wrong era of explaining it. So but there's a lot of things I really loved. I loved the clothes. I loved the star and going from that future scene to back in time. We've not had a time when I really did struggle with this. I'll be honest. I had to do this. I thought I was going to do 2 and 2, and I ended up doing 4 separate watches. It was really tough.
Yeah, I don't think it's a strong season opener. It's not one of my favourites. Not one I know very well. It's probably the second time I've ever really watched it through. I found it a bit tough to get through.
When he was running through the market and he's hiding, and I don't know why, when there was all those things, it reminded me of Ian and that episode when he's, and that sort of.
I was going to say like the Crusade. It's like a 60s historical. Some of it. It feels like imagine if Ian was in colour on film, like that.
Very I don't know. It sort of had. I loved what was essentially a 10-second shot. There was a lot of set and set up and things like that. Because, they're obviously trying to hide that it's in England somewhere. But, everything was beautiful about it and stuff. And there were so many weaker moments. And things that just, you want to see and you're just never shown or never fully explained. And I was like, that's such a letdown because I want to see Sarah dance with Leonardo da Vinci at that ball, or I want to actually have it explained and understood how the Doctor managed to win.
The story's lacking quite a bit in explanation.
But there's so many wonderful, fun elements that I really liked. And I've just found it really frustrating because the whole time I got to the end of it and I'd be like, well, what does that mean? Where's that go? There's so much I want to know. And not in I want to know. It's you've just not explained anything there. That last episode going into it, I felt so clueless. And I was like, this is the last one. This is it's a 4-parter. We should be knowing exactly what is happening here. And we should be watching them go through it. And literally Sarah has not, she's just waiting at a ball.
Right. Okay. Well, I'll go through my notes. You literally have just summed up the whole thing. But
I'm
we'll go back
sorry.
again from the beginning.
I just needed to say it because we go through it and I just
You have to have your
I get
rant.
frustrated otherwise. So I just needed to get it off my chest.
Yeah. No, that's good. So I know what level we're going in now. I need to sort of persuade you a little bit more. We all know, everybody now, don't we, what Sarah's stance on this is. So we can.
So basically,
we
you
can
don't
all
even
try and
need to
persuade
listen
her.
to this episode now. You've got it. You just finish now.
Well, I want to know what you think about that opening bit where they find a different control room.
I loved it. I loved walking through the TARDIS. There was so much to love. I loved walking through the TARDIS. I loved that we went past his shoe room. And we saw some clothes in the background because we've talked about the wardrobe for a long time.
We haven't seen other rooms of the TARDIS since, like, the second Doctor, I don't think.
It was wonderful. And then we go into that other room, and it sort of hinted that it was like the second... And it didn't look like the second Doctor's room, but it's hinted like a previous iteration of him, which I think sort of plays maybe into this theory that, like, the first Doctor is not the first Doctor.
Well, possibly. Well, you had the second Doctor's flute and you saw the third Doctor's jacket, so it sort of implied we just haven't seen them use it. That design is amazing. They've gone really... You've still got the round things, but they're sort of like the wooden and...
It's just so different. It's so different. Yeah, I thought it was great. I loved all that. And I just loved having that tour of the TARDIS because it was just so different. We've not had that before.
My only thing is, it just, you're starting a new season and your first shot is just some wandering around and it's a bit slow. That I don't know. I suppose you used to more like modern New Who would start with a big bang or like a pre-titles, this is something going on. It's just funny in the classic where it's just like, we're just wandering around.
But there is something about the scale, because all we ever see is that one room, and it just reminds us of the scale of what they are in, because it looks massive. I mean, they do a really good job of like having those corridors and having off rooms. Like, they make it look massive. It's obviously just like a tiny bit of set with some off shots and backdrops, but it looks great.
What do you think of Sarah's outfit?
I'm trying to remember what she was initially wearing.
That sort of like print.
Oh
dress
yeah, I
thing.
loved it. Did she wear it throughout, or did she change?
Most of it. Well, most of it. I just thought it was funny again where she fits into 15th century Italy quite easily with just what she happens to be wearing. She doesn't look too out of place.
Because I really liked it, but I felt like she changed.
Well, they put the white robe on her for the sacrifice, then took that off.
It's the white robe, yeah, that's frozen. And then she changes in the ball, yeah. No, I really like that dress. I want to wear one.
So already early on, you've got the new console, and then suddenly the
Mandragora
helix thing is happening without much of an explanation. Like the Doctor already knows what's going on. They sort of land, and I think the helix thing gets on board the TARDIS. It's all quite quick, isn't it?
Which, as you know, is my least favourite thing, when the Doctor knows everything that's going on, but doesn't inform any of us, or it's unclear in any way, and that's just how it's explained. So we're already off to like a bad start with that in a way.
Yeah, but you see spinning TARDIS in space, all of the
Mandragora
helix stuff happening. And then I thought it's like somebody had just switched the channel and put like a history film on, because suddenly it's just film, people in the forest, this historical thing happening. It's literally someone's changed channel. You wouldn't necessarily know you're watching the same program.
We've landed on Earth. Blast technology indicates Mediterranean area. Late 15th century. Not a very pleasant time. Sarah?
So we're back in history, which is a nice change. We haven't had that for a while. And this is all set. So this is filmed in Wales, in North Wales, in Portmeirion. Do you know Portmeirion?
I've heard of it.
So there's a TV series called The Prisoner, which is very famous for the whole place. It's like a bit of a folly. All of these sort of fake Italian-y buildings, and the architect built stuff and all that stuff. Yeah. And there's a music festival there as well every year. So I've been there a couple of times. And I know The Prisoner quite well because that's what it's most... There's like a prisoner shop and stuff, but obviously perfect location to double up when they're not obviously going abroad. So it's funny because when you know it, when you've walked around the place, you can sort of tell it's a bit sort of smaller, I suppose, than it looks on screen. So I've been to all of those places. It's really cool. It's a brilliant place. I recommend going to Port Mary and everybody. I wish I was that architect guy that put it together.
Yeah, it's a beautiful. I've seen pictures and it's like a lot of TikTokers go now from all accounts. I remember seeing an article about it.
Oh, really? Oh, my God.
So
TikTokers have taken over Port Merion. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's brilliant. And then we get in, then we see our characters of the week. So we've got Hieronymus. I can't say that very well. Hieronymus, who is a bit of the astrologer, Nostradamus-y guy, the one with the beard. So we've got, like, astrologer. Giuliano, our hero, and his friend Marco.
I heart Giuliano, I can tell you that.
Even, well, the hair is something else, isn't it?
I can allow the hair because of the time. Like, if it was modern day, he'd have some super swish do, so I can allow it. But I definitely heart Giuliano.
And then you've got the sort of the uncle, the evil uncle, bit sort of Richard III. It's a bit Shakespeare, isn't it, like that? But they play it like it's a serious Shakespeare play in a way. And as you say, the costumes, everyone looks amazing. It's really well done. I was trying to follow. I don't think I've really followed this story before properly. So I was trying to concentrate.
Well, it wasn't the clearest to follow. I mean, all we know is that the uncle, because it was the baddie was the uncle, wasn't he?
Well, the uncle, I think Giuliano's father was like the king or whatever.
Yeah, he's overdue. He's been killed. It's sort of hit. He's been killed. Giuliano's now in charge. Marco's his best mate. Marco and Giuliano, their chemistry, OMG. Like, gay icons of the 70s for sure. They must have been. Their chemistry is incredible. I was just like, oh my God. Like, but I heart Giuliano, but still, oh my God, their chemistry is like, whew, okay.
Well, like what you mentioned before, like you don't really see, a lot of things are off screen. So Marco is the rest of the court. There's not really anybody else. You don't see this.
I'll tell you what it was, right? It was when Marco, we're really jumping ahead. But it was when he was like, we can't hold the ball because it's not safe. And he's like, no, you have to explain something. And he just goes, Marco, you're always right. And I was like, bloody hell, look at you two. Like, you two have got some epic chemistry going on. There's no one else here. So, yeah, you're right. Other than, like, the odd guard. There's some guards and stuff. But, like, there's that one other guard that's, like, with the uncle. I don't remember. He's just the uncle. To be honest, Mark, all I remember is H. I can't say his full name, so he's just H. Not from Steps, but...
H? Who's H? Oh, Hieronymus. Yeah, well, I was going to say the astrologer, the Mystic Meg.
Yeah, so he was H, because they said his name a lot, but I could never remember it. So H, Giuliano, Marcus, and Uncle. That's all I remembered. And then, like, Bad Guard.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's pretty much the cast list. So you find out, obviously, it's... astrologer and uncle are plotting, and so he's supposed to be this, telling the future and stuff, but sort of poisoning people at the same time. So they're like, oh, you can foretell Giuliano's death. Oh, I'll get some poison, sort of thing. So that's going on. So you know who the baddies are. It's quite clear who's good and who's bad, at least.
Yeah.
In this. Yeah. But then you get thrown in this whole
Mandragora
helix thing that follows. That's this light that's going around in the forest. So then the Doctor and Sarah land. Sarah taking a bite into that orange. I'm always like, ugh, like you don't eat an orange like that. Why would you eat like what's it called? The rind or whatever first. She proper like puts it in. I was like, oh, that's horrible. Like, who would do that? Who would just pick a random orange? One from like history as well. I suppose there's no chemicals on it, but I don't know. I always think like, why would you do that?
I'm a peeler.
Exactly. You don't just bite into an orange like that.
Listeners, are you a peeler? Are you a biter? Which
like
one
nobody
are you?
just bites into an orange. I really don't think they do. I always find that a bit funny. You don't see it captured. There's a lot where she's just sort of off and then suddenly she's knocked out and they're holding her. And it does seem to be like there is going to be enough plot for 4 stories because a lot happens quite quickly in that beginning. Are they captured? Yeah, they're sort of captured and escaped. There's lots of bit of capturing and escaping. Lots of running around in that first episode to show off the location. He does know what the
Mandragora
thing is, and he knows that it's followed them. So he sort of it's like he is expecting everything to happen. And then maybe this is the reason why we're both not so keen on it. We get all the chanty, sacrificey stuff.
Yeah.
Now, we don't like a chanty. We've gone back. This is no Sisterhood of Khan chanting. This is Planet of Spiders chanting. It's all a bit...
Well, there's not actually any chanting. They're doing the stuff, but there's no actual
Well, they might as well be, just walking around in black robes.
It reminded me a little bit of the demons.
It was very demonsy, wasn't it? And we get Purple Robe Guy. I can't remember his name. I'm going to call him Purple Robe. I love that shade of purple.
Very royal.
It is. It's very nice. Yeah, maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's the... I love that historic, like we said, like the sort of crusade-y, Ian-y kind of stuff. But with the chanting, I don't know. And Sarah being sacrificed, this is not a good story for Sarah because she's taken off.
It's a terrible story for Sarah.
I couldn't tell if they'd hypnotised her straight away because they put the white robe on her and then when you see her next, she's just walking voluntarily, slowly, sits down. And it's like, well, isn't she going to fight back? Isn't she saying what's going on? She just very much just sort of is swept along with everything, and that's not what we're used to. And she's separated from the Doctor quite a lot. And she got a few good moments, a bit more towards the end. Well, like you say, she's dancing at the thing.
I found all that very odd. I actually had to rewind and rewatch the end because I watched it. I thought I was going to go through and then I couldn't. I mean, I just couldn't. So I had to stop. And we started it and she was so just going with it. Like, she didn't even seem trancy. She was just walking it. And I was like, what did I miss? I actually went back and watched the end of the first episode where she gets captured. And then she is, like, it's just sort of whatever's happened when she's poisoned or whatever, we miss all that because she's just sort of guided into whatever that is. It's very odd.
I think we might needed to see that, and then the Doctor has a bit of a runaround, and he's about to be executed. Not a great. I'm not a fan of those cliffhangers because we know that he's going to get out of it. So it's like, well, what's the point?
I enjoyed him getting out of it though, but so he gets his scarf off, right? He flips his feet. He leaps onto a horse, right? Amazing. Loved that. At some point, he's able to get his scarf back on perfectly because once you see him running again, that scarf is back on, no problem.
Well, that's Stunt Doctor for you.
That is Stunt Doctor. Because literally, he popped up in the market. He has not stopped running, and that scarf was on, no problem. And then he's running again because the next set of guards come. And I loved that because I thought, like, oh, clear. And then the next lot came, and I was like, no, we'll carry on. I enjoyed that chase.
Yeah, but I just don't. I feel like a lot of chase is quite filler because then even going into part 2, that's when the
Mandragora
helix comes in, and I wasn't sure if Purple Robe Guy, when we see it come into the cavern, is that the first time that they are experiencing it? Because there's a line later on where they're saying they've attracted it and they're already part of it. Were they just like a chanty Roman cult thing already, just doing it, and then this thing happened to come in and take them over, or were they trying to summon it? I wasn't really getting that. And
it's ironic though that you say that there's filler because it doesn't need filler. This is not a story that needs filler. It needs explanation.
Well, yeah, but all it is Doctor and Sarah, this thing follows them. They land in 15th century. It takes over this cult. The cult tries to take over the world. The Doctor does something and stops it. I think you could condense it down into 2 episodes. They don't even really expand on all the Giuliano and Uncle stuff that much.
But they could have. And there's a lot of elements of this that could have had explanation. They've chosen not to do that and instead fill things out with other stuff. It's not a 6-part where we're trying to fill the time. We actually need
explanation, because then the Doctor has a line. I wrote it down. He says, the
Mandragora
helix has come home. And it's like, well, has it come home? Was it from Earth originally?
Yeah,
I thought
exactly.
It was on
There's nothing.
Has it been
and
there before?
And even Sarah gets frustrated with it because the number of times where she's like, well, hang on, because she's supposed to be us. Like, the whole point of her is she's us as the audience. So if he can't explain it to her, then you can't explain it to the audience.
Yeah, he keeps a lot to himself. And I suppose him, like Giuliano, is sort of like the sort of companion in this because he's going along with the Doctor quite a bit. He doesn't have any problem. He is great, actually. Let's just talk about him a bit more because he is great in these.
Wonderful.
He is your Like, he could have been a good companion to come along. Nothing
He could have been
phases
Ian.
him. Nothing
He's
phases
like
him.
as strong as Ian to me.
Oh, that's a big claim. That is a big claim.
It is. I stick by it, Mark.
Remember Harry? We all thought Harry was going to be the new Ian, but now it's
Well,
Giuliano.
I sat on the fence with that. I never committed to that statement. I don't think so. Anyway, you thought so. And I was like, we'll wait and see. Giuliano could definitely have been the new Ian.
And he gets on well with Sarah. And yeah, nothing phases him. Like when they see that, it's quite horrific. That guy that got attacked by the lake, it's all like blue and like burnt and stuff. And he's looking at it and he believes the doctor. We don't have with him a lot of like, oh, I don't believe you, lock them up, all that kind of thing. That's the uncle sort of thing that does that.
Yeah, yeah.
So at least you need that Giuliano, because otherwise it would be really frustrating if it was, you know, like everyone against the Doctor and Sarah, like you said before. That would be even more of a chore.
Well, the only thing that's explained really is that they're on the cusp of time where invention is starting to happen and people are starting to open up to this. So that's why that is the only thing that's explained, which is why you have these great Italian philosophers and people like that coming along. It's on the cusp of that, which is why it's chosen this point in time to return to.
Yeah, so he chooses, like the
Mandragora
thing, chooses Purple Mask Man, and they choke because their minds are sort of open, and it's before while the world is still quite open to these culty belief things.
The science comes in. It's just before the science comes in, so it stops that belief coming in. And later on, the Doctor goes on about like, well, you wouldn't want to think of anything beyond your own meal. It will dumb you completely, and it will stop all progress. So that is the only explanation really that's offered.
I really like that scene where Giuliano is talking to Sarah about the Earth being round and stuff. That's a nice.
I loved that.
That's really nice.
That.
It's good, those little moments you can just put in between all the sort of action adventure stuff. I would like a few more moments like that, I think.
But that's what I was saying before about like that. That is like when it's great. And this is why I really wanted to love it, because he was great. I'm going to keep rattling on about how great he was, especially in tights. But like, that was wonderful. There were quite a few moments that I really liked, stuff like that. And I was like, oh, I really want to love this. But it's shit.
Oh my God, okay. I didn't know you were that strong about it. You've never said that about a Doctor Who story. Oh my God, you've never said that word or swore about a Doctor Who. Well, maybe you have sworn about a Doctor Who story, but you've never described a Doctor Who story like that. This is No, I'm just shocked. You've shocked me.
I must have described that screw one as like the worst thing
I don't think you've ever described that. Wow.
But it is, isn't it? Let's be honest, because also
okay. Hang on. You described that has made me really like this story a bit more now because I want to stick up for it.
But of course it has. Mark's always anti my thoughts.
Well, no. Okay.
Yeah, come on. You've got to admit, like, up until me saying that, you have to admit, like, there's so much potential and there's so much fluff that just like doesn't need to be there when we need story explained.
I think, yeah, it's a bit more explanation and it would be nice to see a bit more of the court and what's going on, because then you have that bit, I think it's the uncle who's like, oh, all these dukes of the kingdom are coming along. I think the ambassador from Milan or whatever's coming along.
I wanted to see the ambassador in Milan. I wanted some sort of like
he would have made
introducing the people.
The ambassador of Milan's clothes watch would have been amazing if
like I wanted some sort of like it sort of hinted like, okay, well now these are the entertainers of B-Dance, and I was like, who are they? I wanted some sort of like introducing the blah blah, and I loved that. I don't know, I just found it all a bit,
and
it was almost like it was done on the cheap.
But I suppose it wasn't because
like,
because it wasn't, because actually going to that location and stuff is quite rare to go quite far and do all of that.
The costumes are brilliant, but it's almost like they've done the story on the cheap. It's like a really weird. It's like all the money's been put into the budget and the set and instead when we've just sort of like mangled this idea together. I don't know, and it's just been so long since we've had something this.
But it's definitely the weakest Fourth Doctor story so far, I think.
Oh yeah, for sure. But equally, I could look at those legs all day.
But yeah, but it's not just about Giuliano's legs. The more has to happen, and the cliffhangers aren't.
That's it. I agree.
But the cliffhangers aren't even that exciting. You know, Sarah's captured at the end of part 2 again, and then I think at the end of part 3. Oh, actually, no. The end of part 3 is the best cliffhanger, where the mask doesn't have the face.
Yeah, that was good. But also, we've had all this before. Like, we literally had this last season.
You haven't had Giuliano before.
No, we've not Giuliano.
We haven't had that sort of history before. I mean, last time Sarah was in history properly, it's like her first story, maybe in the same.
Yeah,
sort of thing.
yeah, maybe one in between. But yeah, it's been a while.
Then part 3, we get a sword fight doctor. They're fighting off the guards. A lot of sort of sword fighting stuff, which you'd expect for like a historical. You always get that. And then it's Giuliano and the Doctor together quite a lot. That's good. I like that. But Sarah's hypnotised for all of part 3, and I just think it's a bit of a waste because she's supposed to scratch him with a pin thing. But what comes out of that, which is interesting, which is a question that she asks about, how come I can understand all these languages?
Yeah.
Which has it's never been questioned in all of Doctor Who up until this point, which is very interesting. And the Doctor sort of says implies it's sort of like a telepathic Time Lordy thing. So if he shares that with Sarah somehow, and that's how she can understand all these one alien races and Italians and stuff. So that's quite interesting, and that's the tell, because she's never asked that before. He's like, oh, okay. You must be hypnotised. So the whole language thing, we've never questioned that, have we? Why does everyone speak English? Why did the Sensorites speak English?
No, we've never questioned how Ian and Barbara, the teachers from London or wherever it was, could just understand all these aliens. Yeah.
Yeah, so I like that. I thought that was a good extra adding of the myth of which we haven't really had for a while. And then a lot of the stuff. Then this is where the Doctor has his plan. Doesn't really explain it to anybody. It's something about shorting out it's a bit of a cop-out, I think, really. Nothing. It's not a big, grand, we need to do this. It's just, I'm just going to sort of drain his energy, which I suppose the whole
Mandragora
thing is like a ball of energy, but just to drain it and be like, oh, he's gone now, done.
It made no sense. It made absolutely no sense. And there was all this massive build-up, and it was made to be this big thing that he couldn't even... It's like, yes, we're in real danger. And you could sense there was danger because Sarah seemed panicked. But there was absolutely no order or sense to it.
And also, like you said, like the Doctor goes off, and he just deals with it all his own while Sarah's just sitting in the ball being... And Giuliano and Marcus, they're all just like... And it's quite a small... ball. I don't know where the Duke of Milan or Leonardo da Vinci are. There's like about 10 people at this party.
You've seen the Doctor?
No.
What's keeping him? He's been gone for ages.
It was gone 8 of the evening when I toured the guard.
All this waiting, not knowing what's happening to him. It's worse than being with him.
So,
Yeah. It was all very odd.
Then all the like the Brotherhood or whatever all like attack it, and it all goes red, and they're all like... They're sort of all...
Yeah, and then I thought people had been killed. There's proper screaming, and then suddenly they're all stood there on the balcony looking out at the moon.
Yeah.
At the eclipse. And I was like, oh, it couldn't have been that bad then.
Because then I don't get how the Doctor then is dressed up in the robes at the end and does the voice. It's
Nothing
all a
is
bit...
explained about that at all. It's just, we see him, he's going, come on. We see a fight in the ball, which apparently looks really bad, but doesn't seem that bad because everyone walks out of it unscathed. And then the next scene, they're down into the place that they were told never to go because it'd be too dangerous. But obviously, isn't that dangerous that during the height of this peak moment, they just decide to walk into this temple and the Doctor's there.
Yeah, I don't know. It just felt a bit rushed. It looks great. The story looks amazing. And like you said, all the characters... The acting is great. Yeah, it just lacks that story. I think that's what sums it up, really. There's that weird... Like, the Doctor...
We've not had anything this poor for so long in terms of story. And it's such a shame because it could have been amazing. It could have been. Like, if you put all these elements on the table, you've got, like, the start of as science is starting to come into we're starting to sort of look at science and all these sorts of things. This is like the start of this in our world. So you've got that with sort of mixed with the old sort of styles, and some sort of monster evil is coming in to corrupt that time. That's a really interesting concept. You've got things that we know, like Leonardo da Vinci mentioned a lot, but we never see him. But like he's mentioned as appearing a lot. Names and things that we understand and can like as an audience be like, okay. Wonderful costumes and set and real thought into those sorts of pieces. Like on paper, you're like, this is great. And then the story is it's so First Doctor.
It is a bit, isn't it? Yeah, it is like a historical
like,
60s
we just
story.
found this in the back of the. We found this story in the back of the cupboard. Let's just adapt this and do it now.
It's weird that the Doctor says he'd like a salami sandwich at the end, and then has his bit of salami at the end, and he's holding it at the end of his Italian.
There's so much random stuff in it. It feels very First Doctor.
Yeah, I can see what you mean. Oh, imagine if this was like a First Doctor story with Ian and Barbara, but it was shot on film in colour as like a proper movie.
But it'd be
version.
beautiful. I mean, Barbara would be the one in that ball dressed up, and she'd look amazing.
Susan would be screaming and sacrificed.
Oh, see, in my head, Susan's already gone.
You've written her out already. Okay, Barbara then. Oh, and
it'd be with Vicky.
What would happen is it would be like all the men would be after Barbara, so that uncle would be after Barbara, and the astrologer would all be like after.
No, you see, I reckon this is what I was expecting at the dance. I was expecting that there'd be some sort of introductions of like people, because Sarah starts dancing with someone, and I thought she'd dance with Leonardo da Vinci.
I don't know if Leonardo is he a dancer? How old is he at this point?
I don't know, but he's at this ball. He's obviously quite young because it's like early on in the time of.
Yeah, it would have been like a nice little scene between.
That would have been a really
it?
fun scene of like she met him and the Doctor didn't, because she's at this ball, and it would have been Barbara. Barbara would have been dancing with Leonardo da Vinci. Ian probably would have been like on like with Marco as like on guard duty or something.
And then Ian would get jealous because he's the science teacher and would have loved to meet Leonardo.
Yeah, something like that would have happened. But you can see it being a very sort of First Doctor.
Yeah, definitely.
Story.
And then they say at the end, he says, the
Mandragora
helix thing is going to come back in about 500 years at the end of the 20th
century.
Millennium Bug. That's what I thought anyway. I didn't think you would enjoy this just because I have never enjoyed this. And if I can't get enthusiastic about it, then I wouldn't expect you to. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Yeah. But sometimes I do surprise you. But
and it's not like I don't think this is anyone's.
I really wanted to.
Yeah. It's a shame. We've had a good run of the last couple of seasons. There's going to be at some point.
It started really strong and different. It was just so frustrating.
Well, I will leave it there. I won't press the subject of this story too much. But at least we got a few fun characters that we can talk about in the future, and not a memorable monster or anything, So
it was just like it was a light.
It was, yeah.
It was just a light. It was a red light sometimes, and sometimes it was a whitey yellow light.
And when he's like defeating it, like the weird, like just close up face mask with it wasn't even like they filmed someone in a mask. It was like a photo that they just cut back
genuinely, this is something that I thought of while we were watching it, right? Are you ready? So, when they find historical masks?
Yeah.
Right. Now, they never have string or anything. They never have holes or how they've been attached to someone's face. But, what mask do you know that actually just sits on your face? And they pull that mask off really easily from that guy's face. He literally walks up and just, takes it off his face. So how are these masks in this time staying on people's faces?
Are they quite deep, so they go quite back, whereas like a modern day mask would just be quite thin and just sit on the front of your face, where this one, does it go sort of half round?
It got me thinking about masks. I mean, if you go to a museum and you see like masks, sometimes they're just wood.
Well, you got the sort of masquerade one with the handle, haven't you?
That has a handle, but this one is he has his hands, and that uncle literally just walks up and takes it off his face.
Well, I think maybe this one was just held on by
Mandragora.
Energy.
He wears it all the time. He never had
Mandragora
energy before. He runs around in it. They probably had it like with something on, but he literally walks.
I think it sits on quite back, like it's almost like a helmet.
Just got me thinking about old masks. That's all.
Yeah. Well, let's all think. It's more interesting thinking about old masks than watching this story, apparently. So.
Yes, it is.
Oh, that is a shame, but I knew it would happen. So we'll just try again next time. Hopefully, there'll be an enjoyable one.
What's the
coming
next
up.
one?
So the next one, it's only 4.
Okay.
Oh my god! Imagine if this was 6. Oh, none of us would hear the end of it. You wouldn't have watched it by now. So the next one is 4 episodes, and it's called The Hand of Fear.
Ooh, okay.
Well, thanks to everybody that sent in their voice memos. The jury's out. I'm afraid the jury is out, so it's a split opinion. So, but we will use that every time we reference the story. We will use those. So, and I'm sure it's going to come up again and again. As a sort of this is the shit story.
Well, it will this season. Beyond this season, who knows? Unless we're talking about Giuliano's legs from. But do you know what we haven't mentioned this season?
What?
Oh my gosh, it's just gone out my head.
Are you talking about Keys and Mariners?
Season 1. Keys and Mariners!
Yay, there we go. We're just going to say the name now. There we go. Just think of.
Because also, if we're talking about Leg Watch.
Yes, maybe we need to do a ultimate leg watch.
Yeah, historical leg. It's not even historical. Like we just haven't had legs out for a while.
Well,
it's been a while since we've had some legs. Do you know what I mean?
I'm sure we've had some legs.
Not enough to take notice of. I messaged you about Giuliano's legs.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, sorry. You know when you messaged me and you said about Giuliano's legs?
Oh, yeah. By the way, I was not clear in any way who it was, and you still followed me, and that's why you're my best friend.
Well, no, I was going to say, because you said Giuliano and you spelled it with a G. But it is Giuliano, but I read it wrong, and I thought just my reading of it, I thought you'd call him, you'd written Giuliano or something, but I've just read G instead of J, and that's why I went back, oh yeah, Giuliano.
Yeah.
But I didn't mean it to sound like I'm correcting you. I just read it wrong, and in my head was Giuliano.
Because I watch it with subtitles, so I don't miss stuff. So that's how I knew it was spelled that way.
Oh my god, but I don't know, I'm confused now. Anyway, he's Giuliano, and you got it right. You knew who it was, so there we go. I knew exactly who you were talking about.
Because I went, that guy in tights, and you went, what guy? And I went, the prince guy. He's not even a prince. And you went, Giuliano. And I went, and then I was typing Giuliano, and you went, yes, Giuliano.
Yeah. We'll see everybody next week then for The Hand of Fear.
Hand of Fear. Okay.
And hopefully it won't be as hard.
I think it'll be about a hand. An old hand. That's what I think it'll be about.
Great, an old hand.
I don't know, like a mummy hand or a alien hand or something. There'll be a hand.
Well, I hope you're right. You'll be like, imagine if you're like way off.
Yeah, imagine if it's a toe.
In the meantime, you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at 2watchwho, and you can support us on buymeacoffee.com/2watchwho. And yeah, we will see you next time. Bye.
See you next time. Bye.
2 Watch Who.